at the Munch Museum in Oslo, and I will be the moderator for this webinar. This is the second one, as I said, in a series of 10 episodes that are dedicated to the subject of color change in sensitive artistic and historical collections and the use of advanced research and innovative methodologies for their study, scheduled from April to October 2025. The webinar series is the fundamental part of the training program associated with Perceive project, meaning perceptive enhanced realities of colored collections through artificial intelligence and virtual experiences. The objective of Perceive is to enhance the digital capabilities of scientists and cultural institutions through a service-oriented AI architecture and toolkit, while also developing a new design theory for both on-site and remote VR, AR, MR experiences. This is grounded in the principles of care, accessibility, and authenticity, aimed at benefiting the creative industries and expanding access to cultural heritage and art beyond traditional museum settings, thereby fostering broader social integration. Collections featuring colored artworks are of particular concern due to their inherent fragility, necessitating the establishment of shared methodology for their preservation and exhibition. For example, textiles may deteriorate within a mere decade, and only minimal remnants of the original polychromy on classical statues are retraceable nowadays. The complexity involved in their study, particularly in reconstructing their original appearance, alongside the imperative of effectively communicating these aspects to future generations, remains a critical focus. Each episode of the webinar series will focus on a specific theme, examining various dimensions of color items of sensitive collections through multidisciplinary lenses. Notably, the integration of advanced technologies will be emphasized to enhance the understanding and management of museum collections, such those we chose for Perceive: classical statues, paintings and works on paper, textiles, autochrome, analog photography, and digital art. All episodes are organized with two speakers who will address the same topic from two different perspectives, followed by a question and answer session. We really care about your feedback and interest, so to enrich the discussions, please write questions in the chat at the end of the presentations. The speakers will be happy to answer after it. For today, the episode will be exclusively dedicated to development of a game-based experience for caring about color fading in the Munch's iconic Scream. This webinar explores Perceive prototype for caring, a game-based mediation experience rooted in the color fading of Edvard Munch's The Scream, the version dated 1910 ? Designed for young people between 6 and 10 years of age, the game aims to foster a deeper appreciation for conservation efforts and the art object itself. We'll discuss how museums use technology and games to engage young audiences, the development of the prototype, and the role of narrative mediation in making conservation science accessible and meaningful. Our speakers for today are Birgitte Aga, Head of Innovation and Research at Munch, an activist, creative technologist, and researcher with a Ph.D. in the artistic and ethical application of conversational AI. As the Head of Innovation and Research in our museum in Oslo, consciously experimenting how the museum can better create value with and for our audience while preserving the collection. The second speaker for today is Mika Elliott, game developer and co-founder of Tooth Games, a visual designer working for Munch on Perceive research project. The project aims to create a video game and installation that evoke wonder, loss, and care for color change in Edvard Munch's The Scream. And before we begin with this presentation, I would like to remind you about the next episodes of the series of webinars. One will be on May 20th at 2 p.m. With the title Mulak's Interactive Web XR Tool. Speakers Daniele Ferdani, expert in digital archaeology and researcher at CNR in Italy, and Bruno Fanini, researcher also at ESPC CNR Institute in Rome. And on June 17 at 11 a.m. Rome time, we have the Autochrome Revolution and Realities webinar. Speaking, Giorgio Trampi, Associate Professor at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and Kathleen Langford, Curator, Writer, and Researcher specialized in photography. We invite everyone assisting to participate actively and contribute also to the dissemination of these initiatives. And for staying up to date, please, we recommend you to visit our social channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, and our website. You can find all the links necessary to access them in the chat. I also wish to remind that this webinar is recorded and the video will be available on the YouTube channel of the Perceive project. Thank you again, and we hope to see many of you at the next events. And now I'm going to forward the floor to Birgitte Aga.
Thank you very much, Irina. We're very excited to be here, and thank you for joining in. We're going to talk to you about how we're developing a game-based experience for caring about color fading in the screen, which is part of the Perceive project. I'm going to start with introducing the museum, Edvard Munch, our collections, why we're working with technology, why we have a focus on young people, and then I'm going to pass on to my colleague Mika, who's going to talk about the game and the game development. So I look forward to having some questions, hopefully, at the end as well from all of you. So first of all, I want to show you, for those of you that haven't been at Oslo, at the Munch Museum, I want to show you a little video that shows the museum, a little bit about what we do, and then I'll talk a little bit about Edvard Munch. So that is the Munch Museum. We're based in Bjørvika in Oslo. It's one of the largest museums dedicated to a single artist, Edvard Munch. We have 13 floors, and we also exhibit, in addition to our semi-permanent collection exhibitions, we also have a range of temporary exhibitions around modernism and contemporary art, as well as a live program and a program for young people and children. But the reason we exist is this man here, Edvard Munch, who bequeathed his whole collection to the inhabitants in Oslo Municipal in 1943. So in total, we have almost 27,000 artworks by Edvard Munch, in total 42,000 objects. But we haven't only got Edvard Munch, we also got 3 other collections, Stenersen, Nilsen, and Ravensburg. And to not only to preserve, but also to present these collections, we are working with technology. And one of the projects that we use technology in terms of collection management is collective AI. And we're looking at how machine learning can be used to increase the data quality in the collection management database. Like most museums today has invested heavily into digitizing their collection. And these data sets is really the gold of our age. So how do we both increase the data quality through using AI on these type of collections? And also how can we use that knowledge and that technology to better understand our collection and make new correlations? So we're working with a Norwegian startup called Bineric, and this is really about experimenting with the collection management system. So that's one way that we're working with technology. And of course, conservation, the Perceive project that Irina has introduced, and we're going to talk more specifically about the mediation part of the Perceive project at Munch. But this is also a really important project for how we're looking at how we can use technology to both predict color fading and visualize the impact on artworks. For us, we're working on the case of Edvard Munch's Scream, 1910 ? We'll get back to that in a minute. But why is it important to work with technology? We're not only working with technology in terms of conservation, but also preservation and presentation. So why is it important to think about how we're presenting and making the collection relevant? Because we know in 2023, 65% of Norwegians, the population in Norway, did not visit an art museum. And if you look at young people, that number goes up radically as well. But we do know that young people are consuming culture. They're choosing other platforms to do so. They're choosing other forms to do so. I mean, this is the most interesting fact, I think, that Roblox has 70 million daily users. So that's our future audiences. So if we can't engage those audiences in relevant experiences today, we're unlikely to be anything else than a great big building with a fantastic collection in Oslo. So this is important for us. In the museum's program declaration, we say that we must challenge the idea of what a museum can be so that art becomes valuable and relevant to more people. So this is really about enabling people and creating meeting points between audiences and the artworks to make people care, not only care about each other, but also care about the artwork. And this is also the essence of the perceived project mediation experience that we're going to be talking about, because we know that unless we can be with the future, so young people, we won't have an audience in the future. So one of the investments from the museum is Munch Lab. So this is really a space where we experiment with and for young people. So we test new technology-based museum experiences, AI, games, to really create room where young people can come and have an opinion, test things out, join in the experiences, really by user-centered developments. One of the projects that we developed in the lab is New Snow. So we have about 7,000 drawings by Edvard Munch in our collection. These are fragile. They're rarely seen by our audiences, mainly by our conservators. So we thought, okay, how can we make this collection of Edvard Munch's drawings relevant to a young adult audience? So we decided to come up with an experience where you can draw yourself into the archive. So using AI to enable a connection between your drawings and Edvard Munch's drawings. So this was live in the lab as a prototype experience. So a prototype meaning that we test new experiences without finishing them off as products. So they're really like work in progress. In about 6 weeks, the experience was open in Munch Lab. We had almost 60,000 drawings made into the archive. And of course, our archive is online. All our drawings have been digitized. But as we know, 0.0% of our audiences access the digital archive online. They're really for especially interested people. So this was really great and interesting to see. And we were very careful about the approach. We use open source machine learning models. We had local data. We didn't share any data or drawing data of the young people. That was important for them. So that's another example. I'm going to show you a little video, just a snippet of how the experience looked in Munch Lab.
Nei, ikke. Dra den opp. Skal jeg ta det? Oi. Så jeg var 12 år, bare.
Vi har utforsket muligheter ved bruk av kunstig intelligens for å utforske Munchs tegninger som man interagerer med tegningskatalogen ved å tegne.
Oi, den trodde at det tegnet en bie.
Det blir en slags skattejakt etter Munch-verk, da.
Det begynte egentlig med at vi digitaliserte tegningene til Edvard Munch for å kunne tilgjengeliggjøre dette for publikum og engasjere bredere, så måtte vi lage en opplevelse der publikum selv er involvert og aktive.
Her må du tenke. Den, ja. Nei, det er ingenting.
Og så blir det ekstra spennende når en KI prøver å trekke linjer mellom det du har laget og det Munch har laget.
Helt innerst så er det en slags oversikt av hvor det står da hvor mange tegninger det er i samlingen og hvor mange matcher man har fått. Så det var jo også gøy at man kunne på en måte følge med, så når det ble da en ny match, så begynte det også å blinke.
Oi, ja,
Og
gøy.
du fått en blomst, tror jeg.
Ja,
Oi,
den
var
gjorde det.
fin.
Det var veldig fin.
I Nysnø har vi tett samarbeid med teknologiselskap TCS, Tata Consultancies.
So So I thought that was enough to show you a little bit about how we're working with drawing and AI. And we'll also be working with games as a form. So we had in the lab, we had in 2024, had an experience called Arcade, where you use the Edvard Munch's painting The Sun as a backdrop and a game kind of thematic, and you played against darkness and light in a sense. There's some references to like the darkness and light within a human as well there. And then we had No Honor Among Thieves, which Seb and Mika from Tooth Games developed. They actually won the Norwegian Championship in games, and they collaborated with Munch. Munch was a theme, and we developed with Tooth Games No Honor Among Thieves, and it was a great success. I think we had average playing time in the lab was 7.9 hours per day, so almost continuous while the museum was open. There were young people playing. So that's another way to really think about how to engage and create new connections between our collections and young people. And I'm going to show you a little mini taster. An interesting fact for the arcade game, 29,000 objects were eaten by the little Pac-Man style character on the screen. So this had a very high engagement. Both No Honor Among Thieves and Arcade had a high engagement with young people. So this is kind of some of the context to why we're exploring game as a mediation for the perceived caring prototype. For the project isn't only about developing new science in terms of color preservation and new tools, but it's also about mediating the science and also creating a sense of care in our audiences. So that's really what the purpose of the caring prototype is. So if you come to visit the museum, you come up to the 4th floor. This is our semi-permanent Edvard Munch collection called Infinite. You will see 3 versions of the Scream. One is always visible. The 2 others rest in darkness as part of the conservation effort to prolong the life of the artworks. So we have 3 versions that you can see. We have the lithograph, 1895. We have the crayon on cardboard, 1893. And then we have the tempera and oil on cardboard, which is 1910 question mark. We have a research project going on, which Irina has been leading, around why there is a question mark, but that's not the focus of this presentation, so we have to come back to that. But that's the artwork that we're working with as part of the game development. So the interactive experience for the caring prototype is going to be developed as a game, or is being developed as a game, and is designed to evoke wonder, simulate loss, and cultivate a sense of care in children aged 6 to 10 as a primary user group. But it should also encourage an understanding of the scientific processes behind the project and the conservation of these collections. And the prototype was designed to be installed as a game and also a physical game in an immersive space. So you can kind of see behind us, it's called Amphi. This is the museum lobby behind us, and you can also see a picture here. It's a big circular space. So it's, yes, a digital game, but it's played physically together in this room. And it's going to be live at the museum in December 2025. So the process of designing the game is rooted in user-centered design with children at the heart of it. So we have been evolving the project throughout, not just testing them, but including this target group in. And the concept of the game, which Mika will be talking about shortly, began as a broader workshop with the Perceive Consortium, where representatives from the different fields and the experts at the project participated, and we used the Perceive co-design tool, which is a great tool to develop and ideate new ideas and directions. And from that, we had a kind of notion of the user group, young people, and also the form as a game. And that's really where Mika and Seb and the rest of the lab team and mediation came on board and started developing the game. So that is what Mika is going to talk about. But before we start, I just want to say again what the design challenge of the caring prototype is. The kind of challenge we set ourselves is how can we evoke wonder, simulate loss and nurture care in children aged 6 to 10 through a meaningful game-based experience rooted in Edvard Munch's The Scream. So that's exactly what you, Mika, is going to say a little bit about.
Thank you, Birgitte. Thank you.
We're also going to do a swap.
Do a swap. Okay, I can do it. Do you want this? Hi, my name is Mika, and I'm going to talk about creating a game experience for the Perceive project. A little bit about me. I am a co-founder of a game company here in Oslo with Sebastian Mengseth. I'm a designer, animator, and illustrator. I've worked in interactive media for 10 years, specifically in EdTech, and with games for the last 5 years. And experience with the Munch, we started working with the Munch in 2024 to kick off the game experience in the Munch Lab. The game featured was called No Honor Amongst Thieves, a local multiplayer game about stealing monks' priceless works of art from the museum. But now, as part of the Perceive project, here at Munch, we are developing a game with the goal of conveying a sense of care and preservation for the Scream, instead of stealing it. The title of this game is Tiny Conservators. But before we dive into the game, I want to talk about our journey to how we got here. In our first days on the project, we met with Irina, who shared the Perceive research with us on the 1910 question mark version of the Scream. She explained the significance of color change and material degradation over time. We explored 3D models showing the composition, layers, and structure of the painting. We discussed paint sensitivity, particularly its vulnerability to light, humidity, and mishandling, all factors that have contributed to its damage over time. This helped us to start to reflect on questions like, what does color change tell us? And how do we relate to the painting's history of loss and recovery? We also started to consider how to engage kids in caring for such an iconic work of art. To help illustrate the science concepts of Perceive, Irina showed off her creative side and let us play a board game she designed, featuring time travelers and a danger master. Seb and I both agree that we think she's ready to trade in her microscopes and spreadsheets to join us in the world of game development. We explored key themes for the project. Themes like awareness of color change, actions of preservation, passage of time, fragility of materials, and danger elements specific to this version of the Scream. We asked ourselves questions like, how can we make the Scream feel tangible, creating a sense of closeness for the visitor while playing a video game? And how can we address challenges like color change in a relatable way? For example, explaining humidity damage by comparing it to wrinkled skin after too much time spent in water. We then met with a focus group, a very heterogenic second grade class, to show them the 3 different versions of the Scream here at the Munch and the concept of the Perceive research project. We discussed colors, materials used in the painting. We showed them the high-res, zoomed-in version of the Scream, where we found that they were very interested in the face and finding figures in the image, like the boat on the water in the background and the figures on the bridge. We explored what happens when cardboard gets wet, which led to many kids trying to eat it. That sparked an idea that I'll revisit later. And we asked them what colors made them think of, how the colors made them feel, and even what they might taste like, since they seem to be so into eating things. Finally, we held a game ideation session, and the kids came up with a lot of fun ideas. Many of those ideas involved farts, aligning well with Sebastian and my core principles of what makes a game great. With all that we had learned up to that point, Sebastian and I then presented video game styles to our team, everything from puzzle games and platformers to sports games and more. We also explored different play types and controller inputs, from standard controllers, think PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, to arcade sticks and flight sticks, or motion controls like the Kinect, and prop controllers like Guitar Hero. As a team, we visited Tilt, an arcade bar here in Oslo, to test classic games like Pac-Man, Sega Rally Racing, and Dance Dance Revolution. And our key takeaways is that we enjoyed games that allowed for cooperative and competitive team play the most. A highlight was playing Bubble Soccer, a 2-versus-2 competitive table game where teamwork made it especially fun. And yes, if you're wondering, Elisa and I won the series and are current Bubble Soccer champs here at the Munch. Using all this research, Sebastian and I did what we do best, and we brainstormed about 75 unique, fun, and very silly game ideas. As a team, we then narrowed that down to 6 games, and those 6 games we then pitched internally here at the Munch and reduced that selection down to 3 finalists. From there, we selected the top 2 games and returned to our 2nd grade focus group to pitch them the ideas. The kids overwhelmingly loved the idea of tiny conservators. Tiny beings jumping around and exploring the screen painting up close. It made it our clear choice for the game that we need to make. So what is Tiny Conservators? Tiny Conservators is a 2D action game that blends platforming and musical elements. The game is about a magical, microscopic group of invisible beings called Tiny Conservators, who are locked in an eternal battle to protect the world's greatest art from the dastardly diva villains known as the Royal Elementals. The story. In a hidden, microscopic magical world just beyond human sight, the Tiny Conservators are a devoted order of miniature beings that fight endlessly to protect the color of the world's greatest art. They do not just safeguard these masterpieces, they need them to survive. If the color fades, so do they. To live, they must keep every shade vibrant, battling time, dust, and decay to ensure no color is ever lost. But there are forces that seek to destroy these works of art. The Royal Elementals. Time, humidity, and light. Powerful musical divas, each with their own style of genre and of damage. They hunger for the vibrant colors the Tiny Conservators fight to protect, stealing brilliance from masterpieces and draining life from the art, and maybe dropping a sick rhyme along the way. The Royal Elementals are the stars of the show, drawing inspiration from Disney's Inside Out, where each character represents an emotion. The Royal Elementals represent time, light, and humidity. They are accompanied by their own type of evil minions, little gremlins that do their dirty work. These are enemies that you'll be battling throughout the levels, trying to stop them from doing their specific type of damage. For instance, if you look at Count Tictocula, we see his minions who ride time-sucking bats. The Lady of Light has firefly-riding minions that will do light damage. And we're still working out what Captain Humidity and his enemies will be doing, but it's going to be somewhere along those lines, and how we can mix them all together. In between each level, there will be story elements, where the Royal Elementals will pop up, sing a few bars in their musical style about the type of damage they're doing, building up to a boss battle with each of the villains. Gameplay is like classic arcade games like Balloon Fight and Joust meets Super Mario Bros. And Kirby. Taking inspiration from the high-res scan done as part of the research for Perceive, the game starts with players viewing the screen at normal size. And as the protective shutters close, the camera quickly zooms in to a microscopic view of a small section of the painting, revealing the playing field. Players defeat all the enemies on screen. It will zoom out and reward them with a quick song about the damage being done by that particular villain. Core game loop. This is where the kids eating paper came back into play. The 2nd graders seem to get a kick out of eating the cardboard, but they also recognize games like Pac-Man, Kirby, which involved eating your enemies. So we thought eating damage or enemies and spitting it out for points would be a fun element of gameplay. So if you see in the image here, on the left you see the Tiny Conservator, which you'll play as, and on the right you see the Time Gremlins, the minions of Count Tictocula. They fly around and will land on the painting, and then they will suck the life out of it in the color, turning it gray and cracking all around it. And then the player has to swoop in and try to knock them off their bat. They fall to the ground. The player then has to run down, eat them up, and then spit them out for points, and points. If they don't in time, the Time Gremlin will be picked up by his bat and then repeat that process. Tech side of things, we are using Unity 6.0, which is we'll be using a GPL 3.0 license, the same as the Anton framework being used in other Perceive projects. For those who don't know, Unity is a game engine widely used in the industry and allows for lots of flexibility in game development. The game is going to be open source code, and everything is being posted to GitHub during development. This means everyone will have access to the code and will be able to download the project files. This game is being built specifically for Munch and Perceive, but with the open source code, anyone with access could download and possibly repurpose some of the with some development to incorporate other works of art besides Munch's. Game will feature local co-op multiplayer between 1 to 4 players. However, we are testing for more. We're going to try maybe up to 8 or 10. Other features will include customization, maybe the look of your character and the look of your conservasaurus. The game will feature cutscenes featuring songs about the damage being done by the royal elementals. The game will feature a scoring system, so somebody will be crowned the winner at the end of each round, allowing for both cooperation and competitiveness in the game. And it will be an arcade-style gameplay, meaning it's easy for everyone to pick up, but hard to master. So where are we right now? So far, we have finished the character movement and actions like flying, eating, spitting, and bopping. Enemy AI has been done, where they fly around, they can navigate through the environment and attack the players. And the point system has also been implemented, declaring a high score winner. Left on our to-do list, screen flow, basically the flow of the game from level to level with the elemental scenes spaced in between. A character creator and name entry, so players can customize their own tiny conservator and conservasaurus. UI, menus, subtitles are also on the to-do list, and boss battles, the final showdowns with each of the elemental characters. The space. The experience will open late this year in December at the Munch in the Amphitheater, located in the main lobby of the museum, as you see behind me, allowing for easy access for all visitors. The goal of the experience is to take visitors into a microscopic, magical world of the tiny conservators, an inviting way to teach our target audience, kids 6 to 10, the science of the Perceive project. The idea is that the visitors enter the space through a portal, giving the visitors the sensation of shrinking down to the microscopic level of the tiny conservator world. We hope to achieve this experience with different fabric textures around the room, including a furry conservasaurus that players can sit on while playing the game. The room will also feature lighting that communicates with the game, meaning the room's lighting will change with the action that is happening in the game. And there will be other interactive elements in the space. Ideas include tablets around the room with other fun interactive elements, further mediating the science of Perceive. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgitte and Mika. Very interesting presentations. I'm looking forward to see the final product, the final experience, and I'm going to take my son also to experience it together. I see some questions here, so I'm going to read and then you decide who is answering. Is it okay? Yeah. So first, Christiana says that the project on drawings, I suppose this is for Birgitte. Interesting. That was what was the most important goal for you? Was it to engage people, emphasizing the fun aspect, or was it more related to educational aspect, like understanding drawings, which are certainly less known than the paintings?
Really good question. Always when we create experience in the lab, we never talk about education, but we talk about experiences or creating meeting points between the art and our audiences. So really the ambition of the project, first of all, was could you draw yourself into the archive? So it's really about making the archive relevant and engaging for young adults. So that was really the primary driver for the project. And so we work closely with young adults through the whole project, and the kind of developments were formed through this collaboration as well.
Nice. Another question, this might be for Mika. How do you balance the educational element with fun in the design of this gaming experience?
It's a good question. It's been a team effort there. I think Sebastian and I, being game developers, we lean into the fun side, but it's been really fun working with the mediation team and the science guys to figure out what that balance is. And I think we in theory right now, we've nailed it. We'll see as we test and go along, but I think the game is going to be very fun first, and I also think it's going to do a great job of nailing the core concepts of the project.
Thank you. Another question. What are the main challenges you face when integrated game elements in a museum context?
Oh, I think we both could answer that.
Yeah.
Well, I can start with talking about, I think it's always so interesting to go back to Roblox. 70 million daily users. I mean, that's a ridiculous number for any museum to have that kind of level of engagement. So we know that like it's a form that's proven that young people engage with, but I think when it comes to museum, maybe one of the greatest challenges is development cost. It's expensive to develop games, and we know the form works. We have great feedback from the prototype games that we developed with Tooth Games and also with Erlend Kirkebø. But it is expensive to develop, and it's really important to separate, which we learned that edutainment doesn't necessarily create the same engagement. So it's really about, like Mika is underlining his presentation as well, about really using the form and allowing people to engage in a fun way that they find relevant. But I'm sure, Mika, you got some ideas about what's challenging when you're making a game within a museum.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the first thing that popped in my head was from the last project that we did, the No Honor Amongst Thieves. The collaboration between the game and the museum was very fun, especially when younger children came in to play. It was interesting to see students yelling out the different names of the painting, which I was pretty blown away by. That it was cool to see the two worlds come together in a fun game experience. So I don't know. That was a good learning experience for us there, and for this game too. We've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that it's both fun and educational. And it's been a challenge, but it's been a fun problem to solve.
Nice. I don't see any more questions. I don't know if from those in audience. Yes. What do you think is the best way to engage teenagers who are the most complex and difficult audience to involve?
A really good question. We find that like we got very good programs for like up to like 11, 12, and then also from like 16, 17, but the teenagers, the kind of 12 to 16 are very difficult to engage. There's still like we find young people that are too young to come on their own, so usually dragged along with parents, but they're too old to really engage in the children activities, and they're too young to go to the 16 plus activities. So I think what we've done in Munch Club, we found that particularly like No Honor Amongst Thieves and the arcade games has really found a space for them to engage them. And it's really about finding a room where they can engage in forms such as games, and not only games, but drawing or other elements where they can have the freedom to be and interact without necessarily being led by a parent or having to hang out with younger kids. So that's one learning we have.
On the game side of things too, I would say as we were in the ideation phase, we had a lot of great ideas, but it became a balance of finding what is playable for a child 6 years old and fun for a teenager that's 15, 17. We had a really fun idea called the Silly Conservator, where you would control a hand almost like a surgery simulator and would be playing around with trying to preserve the screen and protect it. But as we played the game it was kind of based off of, we found it was very difficult and we thought it might be too hard for children. So I think I'm pretty happy with the choice that we made. I think it's a good balance of that simple arcade style, only one or two buttons and moving around. So any child should be able to pick it up really quick, but I think there is a balance of older people will have fun mastering the game.
Yes, but we are all, even adults, grown-up children somehow, so I wouldn't see so many barriers. I also noticed here a comment. I love the way you documented your work. Good job. This is for Birgitte and Mika too.
Thank you.
And yes, it will be very exciting, and we invite you all in December to visit us in Oslo. For those who can come, bring your kids, especially those in the interval of age that we targeted, or even those who are older. They will probably enjoy it very much. And yes, thank you for assisting. I see someone is writing, so maybe we can wait to see if there is a comment or a question. Yes, thank you. Looking forward to testing it out. Yeah, welcome, Lynn. Thank you again for being here with us and for the opportunity for us in Perceive to share our work with you. This was recorded, so it will be available on the YouTube channel of Perceive, and subscribe to the channel because then you can get notified about the future episodes of the series of the webinars. Thank you and have a nice rest of the day and the week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.